All right. All right, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Kleinhans, and I appreciate you taking time out of your life to come join us. This is the Colorado Virtual and Augmented Reality Group. It's a group that's been around, believe it or not, for several years now, if you can believe that. It first got started with Mark Maines and Jamie Hurt and a few other individuals who really wanted to jump into this brand new thing that was called virtual reality. And at the time, nobody had a modern virtual reality headset. In fact, it was a couple months after I joined that the Kickstarter for the Oculus DK1 came out, and people were able to finally get their hands on it. And I still have my DK1. I fired it up at times in the past. I think some of the software is getting hard to find, so I'm like having to back up my laptop that's like 8 years old just to be sure that the thing will still run. So sometime this year, we are going to have a retro night where we'll be able to bring out all of our old 5-year-old Oculus or whatever headsets we have and just see what's what. We did this once before, and some people were able to bring in some older video game systems, and it was a lot of fun. We had a good time with that. So that'll be coming sometime in the future. So with regards to that, we do follow a lot of the guidance for meetings, in-person meetings. Denver's about to lift the mask and card requirements for a lot of indoor venues. We're still open to looking for different venues. I've got tabs on a couple different ones. They may or may not be based out of where we used to meet in the off Sheridan Boulevard area. So it could be we meet in Boulder, we could be meeting in downtown Denver, we could be meeting in the tech center. So the place that we actually are able to physically meet could be someplace near what we've done in the past, or it could be something completely geographically different. So I'm definitely open to ideas. This is a volunteer-based organization. We do not have a budget, so free is good if we can manage that. Otherwise, we just have to negotiate with different venues and see what they can allow and what they can't. I haven't heard anything about the Microsoft Office opening back up in the tech center. We've used them for other user groups in the past. Same thing with a lot of the colleges and universities in the Denver Boulder area. Some of them during the pandemic completely shut down. They did not let any user groups or any kind of outside events occur. Once this masking and card mandate gets lifted, I believe sometime on a Saturday, I think people will start revisiting what their in-person requirements are going to be for outside parties. So more to research and discuss on that in the future, but I can't wait to get meeting back in person. So to that end, there are other groups that I help participate, lead, manage, or I just like to go to. And I've seen hybrid meetings conducted. And hybrid meetings, they do tend to work well, but man, you're juggling a lot of plates if you're a single individual trying to keep it going. So a hybrid event using Zoom would be, you're still physically meeting in person, and you're still conducting Zoom at the same time. So you have a video camera focused on the speaker on a fixed location. They can't walk around the room or walk off out of camera view. So it takes a lot of discipline on the speaker, not only to help manage the software, but also to offer scheduled times when people on Zoom can unmute and chat or ask a question. Some of it works well, some of it not so well. But I think it is something to explore going forward. We're still in the winter months. This is a Colorado Virtual and Augmented Reality Group, so we're not based on Denver, Boulder only. We have had some participants coming from the Springs. We've had some people say that, hey, I'm up in Fort Collins, love your group, and that, I'm not going to be able to drive down there. So there's still going to be a need for people to access the group remotely, and I think Zoom is going to be the way moving forward. Hybrid just takes a lot of moving pieces and parts to make that work successfully. So once we get back to in person, I think we'll get a hybrid setup. My only requirement on that is it needs to be a reliable internet connection, because if the internet ever gets spotty or a machine gets overloaded, the first thing that goes is going to be anything related to connectivity. For instance, the last venue that we used to meet at in person had a two-factor authentication to get access to their internet. So you had to have the name of the Wi-Fi, a username, and a password. Unfortunately, to do VR demos like on a Quest 2 or something else, you can't have that level of authentication on there. So you can't do live demos on something like that. Plus, when we tried to use access on the internet in the past there, the bandwidth just wasn't quite there. So in order to do a successful hybrid meeting, you've got to have a lot of moving pieces and parts, all of them working successfully together in order to pull that off and to make it work. So it is a tall order, but I think in the future moving forward, that is where we need to go as a group. And if you guys have any feedback or comment on that, I'd like to hear it. You're more than welcome to shoot me an email or message me through the Meetup app, and we can chat about it offline. All right. So we're still open to looking for a venue. So if you have any ideas about free or anything like that, again, just ping me and let me know. As far as the group goes, we are open to any and all levels of expertise. If you are new to virtual reality, maybe you just got a headset and don't know what to do with it. Or if you're like, man, I want to be a developer, but I have no idea where to start. How do I get into Unity? How do I get into Unreal Engine? How do I deal with some of the Oculus software development kits, some of the SDKs? Or maybe you're looking to see, like, I've heard about this thing and I don't know if it's really for me, if there's any use case for this. Is this something that's going to affect all businesses, or is it only high-tech businesses? And to that end, there are things that VR and AR can do. It's not going to replace a lot of things, but it's going to augment and help extend existing practices for a lot of businesses and for nonprofits and for business to consumers as well in the commercial sector. We are looking for new speakers, or if you have a demo that you would like to show off and present, please try to get it with me ahead of time. And at the end of the session tonight would be the time to do demos, and I can give you host controls and let you drive and show us something that you're working on. If it's something you're working on for your company, or something you're working on for a client, or something that you want some help on, or just some constructive feedback, by all means, try to get with me ahead of time, and we can try to make that happen. As far as lining up new speakers for this year, there's a lot of folks that I do follow on Twitter, and I have been trying to ping them and say, hey, are you interested in presenting remotely? And that's interesting too, because a lot of folks, everybody's working remote nowadays, so it's not like you have to worry about getting a speaker physically present, although that would be great. At the same time, many of the people that I know are doing remote presentations. So more to come on that in the coming months ahead. All right. So circling back around on venues, there are several co-working spaces that do have meeting and presentation rooms. I'm also looking at public library spaces. Some of them are free, or some of them you have to register ahead of time. And some of them might have different times, like we might have to find a venue that is open on a certain date and time. So this meeting is normally scheduled for the first Thursday of every month, but we might need to be flexible on that depending on the requirements of a particular venue. There's also been interest in doing hands-on, like a half-day session at some point, being able to say, hey, I'm completely brand new to virtual reality. Can you show me how to get my headset set up? Can you show me how to get started on Unreal or Unity? And just do something basic, like, here's how to do something in VR completely from scratch in less than an hour. And then work with some of the other folks that I know to actually help facilitate that, and to be able to look over your shoulder, because doing things remotely, it works, but it's always best if you can have somebody look over your shoulder, click here, do this. By the way, look out for this. So hands-on demos with someone looking over your shoulder is where I'd like to go sometime in the near future, as we get back to coming out of this winter of COVID and get back to in-person events. All right. So I do have some news items to share. I'll go on a little bit more about some of the things that I've been working on. Then we'll jump into some of the news items. This is a fairly open forum. So if you have any questions or comments, just be respectful and unmute yourself. Or if you can, more than welcome, you can type in the chat if you have a link that you want to share or something like that. So by all means, this is an open forum, and I'll go through the news items, and then I'm going to show, hopefully show a demo if my machine can handle it. So I have an Oculus Quest 2 hooked up, and I want to do an open brush demo, show a couple of features with that. I just hit version 1.0. Then also show just a real quick demo of audio to face. This is something I showed on the Unreal Engine group last month, and it's really kind of a cool technology, and I can't wait to see more applications of that. So those are the two demos that I'd like to cover after we look at some of the news items. All right, so with regards to some things that I've been working on that may or may not be of interest to a lot of folks, is that I am into Unreal Engine. I've dabbled a little bit in Unity, but Unreal's been mainly my engine of choice, just because I fell in love with it a long time ago, and I've really enjoyed learning more about it. They had a setup, and I'm going to share my second screen here for a second, and we'll go through some of the items on my web browser. So let me pull this up here in a second. Come back here. It's a meeting. Share screen. Screen 2, share sound, share. Okay, so you should be seeing a blank web browser, right? All right, the first one up is, these are courses that Unreal Engine has recommended to be for introductory people who are completely brand new to the engine. Unity has similar courses set up for them. What I like about this is free content, 100% free. You get yourself a login on the Unreal Engine site. You can download the launcher. You can then install the software, and then you have full access to Unreal online learning. So these courses have taken quite some time to get through, and they do cover many aspects of the game engine, top to bottom. I just recently completed my 15th course just last week, and I can tell you, going top to bottom through all of these courses, it is pretty intense. Some of it you can go through pretty quick. Some of them you have to like watch the video, rewind it a bit, and go through it again. So don't think this is just a watch a video in the background and you're suddenly going to understand a video game engine. You need to follow along and do a lot of the work and the examples, and be able to, try and try again. And then when you come up with ideas, document some of your ideas, whether you're using OneNote, Evernote, or whatever tool of choice you use for note taking. Take notes, because there's absolutely no way you're going to remember everything as you're learning it. So if anybody has any questions about Unreal Engine or any of these courses, by all means, feel free to ping me, and I can talk about some of the experiences and some of the things that you will work on with regards to some of these things. And it does cover many aspects of the game engine, top to bottom. So even though you might only be interested in doing a certain thing with Unreal, I think it's still important to understand all of the other parts of the engine, just to kind of get a broad overview of what the engine is capable of doing. And of course, Unreal Engine 5 is going to be released to production sometime this year. And so all of these courses, yes, all of the courses are going to get updated to Unreal 5. And some of the newer courses are already Unreal 5 engine specific. So let's see, will there be a front runner on who will win the battle between Unreal and Unity? Personally, I think competition is a good thing. I would hate to see one company run away with it, but at the same time, I think keeping each other honest and keeping their feet to the fire is going to help bring features and benefits to all the users who are developing it, but then all the people who just love to play awesome games and great experiences. So I think competition is a good thing. I go ahead.
I was just curious on that. Um, Another curiosity question, what is the Oculus OS based on? Is that based in Unity or is that based in Unreal?
So the Oculus headset, the Quest 2 headsets, in fact, all of the wireless headsets for the most part, with the exception of the Apple, which will be coming sometime, I think it's going to even be next year, 2023. Most of the wireless headsets that you can buy today are all based on the Android operating system. So when you build something in Unreal Engine or Unity, you're in essence building a packaged Android application that then gets deployed to the headset, either natively through a store, or you can what's known as side loading. It allows you to install it as its own side loaded application.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You bet. All right. Now we're going to look at a book I just finished reading. This one I've mentioned before, and I reread this a second time, and I took a lot of notes on this. This is called VRX, How Virtual Therapeutics Will Revolutionize Medicine. Dr. Spiegel is head of a certain area within the digestive system. I can't pronounce the name on it, but at a Cedar Sinai in Los Angeles, and he has written this book, and he covers many different ways that virtual reality is being used to help people, from phobias, mental health issues, anxiety, depression, looking at phantom limb pain, looking at reduction of pain looking at mitigation of pain management using virtual reality, so non-drug interactions, covering a wide variety of different things. And the great news is that this is heavily researched and backed up by a lot of vetted sources. So the index and the appendix is just chock full of all kinds of great things to read. He does mention all of the companies and products that they're working on by name. So even though it's 2022, a lot of the companies that I've looked at, many of them are still around. So it's still a great resource, and I'd highly recommend folks get into it if this is something that interests them. Because I know virtual reality is great. It's fun. I love playing VR games. I love doing things in VR, and yet part of me still is thinking about, okay, how can this be used to help people? It's fantastic for entertainment, but how can we help people in a non-drug manner? So again, highly recommend that book. And by the way, all of these links are going to be posted into the description of the video when the video is finished recording and uploaded to YouTube. All right, the last one I wanted to mention is the fact that I'm going through a course right now on Blender 3.0. Blender is a digital content creation program. It does allow for the creation of content for three-dimensional assets that you would then put into a game engine like Unity or Unreal Engine. The interesting part about it is this gentleman has been, Andrew Price, has been working on Blender, I think he said, for the last 18 years. So the man knows what he's talking about. And he's created this donut tutorial. This is his shtick. This is what he's known for. And this is a series of several videos going through the Blender interface. Like, you download it and you just start completely from scratch. And by the end of the parts, all the way up to 15, I believe, and then a finale. And these are about 15 or half-hour segments. You will have a fully rendered donut that you can then do other things with. And so building the donut, again, is a top to bottom exploration of Blender. He doesn't go into the weeds. He doesn't talk about things that you're probably never going to use. He even says that up front, that of all of the things that he's been doing in Blender, he's only using 20% of some of the features for 80% of his work. So he generally follows the 80-20 breakdown on that. All right, so before we jump into news items, any questions about courses or virtual reality to help people or Blender 3.0?
Yeah, I was curious about the therapeutics thing. Are you familiar with any specific applications of that?
You mean of things that I've experienced, or things
Or
that
just
I know
this
about?
that's just out in the world, like, or pain management or something? I've read a tiny bit about it.
Sure. I had a I have a sincere interest in chronic pain management. I have some family members who have to take extremely powerful opioids for chronic pain. It's mainly back pain. They have trouble sleeping at night. They can't sit in a chair for hours on end, and they're in constant pain and suffering, unfortunately. Uh, and I began looking at virtual reality for pain management. There's a company called Applied VR that Dr. Siegel is a consultant for, and I believe he was once on the board of directors for them. So if you do a search on Applied VR, it's all one word, you'll see that they're now doing some trials on their headsets. So you can, and I think it has to be done through an actual legitimate professional organization. You can't just say, hey, I want to try this thing for myself. You have to work through a different group in order to get access to their headsets. And what they've been able to find is that for some people who do respond to the three caveats of virtual reality, which is immersion, where you are inside of some place and your mind is not focused on your physical body. You have a distinct interaction, which is something very different than just kicking back and watching a video. And then also being able to have this concept that you don't feel like you're in your body anymore. So you feel like you're some other character doing something else. So those combination of three things is the core of what helps reduce the perception of pain using the headset. And it varies from person to person. Some people respond to it, some people don't. Sometimes the effects last for a couple minutes. Sometimes the effects can last for hours. So it's not like you have to wear your headset on like 8 hours a day to get relief from pain, which is good. So it's anywhere from, I've heard numbers from anywhere from 5 to 40% reduction in the perception of pain. There was one study in that really jumped out to me, and that is for women who do not have access to epidurals. I mean, we're talking like third world countries, or where medicine is just too expensive. They actually did a study of putting a headset on a woman going through labor. It wasn't like they just put the headset on her and said, okay, here, go. But they, prepped her. They told her what it was going to be like. So she wore it. So she had an experience of what it was going to be like. And then when she was able to have the headset on during labor, she was able to do it without an epidural. That's pretty crazy. But they're looking at, more cases like that of not just chronic pain, but also acute pain, which is something that spikes and then goes away, versus chronic, which is constantly staying around. So yes.
If I may interject,
Sure.
I can give a firsthand account. I am a chronic pain patient. I lived in Houston, Texas, and I did use my virtual reality system to escape pain for a little while. It would work for a certain amount of time. It would work better in conjunction with other pain management features, but it really can make a difference. I actually moved to Colorado to get away from the storm systems, and my pain here is phenomenally less. So, but yes, as a first-hand account, it does work. And I do know that they're also working with Emotive now, the Emotive headsets, which are the headsets that read brain waves. When they first came out about 6 years ago, you would put them on and train them, and then all you would have to do is think turn left, and in the game demo it would turn left. And they've been working with that to integrate the virtual reality as well for therapeutic aspects.
Great. I appreciate you sharing that.
No problem.
Yeah. And there's also, so I like, there's another application I like. It's called Trip, TRIPP. And it's kind of like one of these psychedelic type of experiences you go through. but the company has been doing, you know, a lot of great things. And again, it's an app that facilitates meditation and just, you know, having some peaceful sounds and just kind of literally checking out of reality for a little bit, where you're not having to run away from zombies or, you know, shoot robots or, you know, something like that. You know, fairly calm and peaceful environment. So yeah, there's going to be a lot more to that, I think, as time goes on. The good news is that I do follow Dr. Spiegel on Twitter, and he did mention that the FDA has finally approved the use of virtual reality as a type of prescription and as a type of therapeutic. So the fact that it finally broke through that barrier, I think people will begin seeing a lot more things. And the big thing that he mentioned in his book is that having the technology is great. Having the professionals know how to use the technology is great, but will insurance pay for it? So getting reimbursed has been this whole brouhaha of it. And now that they've broken through that, I think, personal opinion, I think we're going to see a lot more of that coming in the near future and in the years to come. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, there's also another type of therapy called EMDR. And in fact, there are 4 virtual reality products out there already since at least 2019. And EMDR therapy is a little different from your typical therapist who listens to your problems for hours and hours. They basically make a priority list of all of your anxieties and bad memories, and using this technique of a light or a finger moving back and forth, they desensitize the memories. And so this book probably covers that. As I said, these products have been out, I don't think 2018, I think 2019 was the first one I saw that there are 4 products for, but people are using VR for that particular type of treatment.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, same thing with cognitive CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, was mentioned in the book as well. So great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Does that mean I can write my headset off on my taxes now?
If only it were so easy.
Hey, therapeutic purposes.
It is. All right. So let's get on to some news items here. And again, again, this is just an open forum. I'm going to hit some news items. So if there's something you guys want to chime in on, by all means. But yeah, I definitely love being able to look at a lot of these things. And the other thing I was going to mention too is that I don't know how many of you are into New Year's resolutions, or if you've already settled back into the old groove or something like that. But virtual reality fitness is definitely a craze. I use my headset a lot on some of the first person shoot 'em ups, robots, zombies, things like that. Also with regards to other types of things that move your arms and your legs, things like that. A lot of gyms, believe it or not, there have spaces where people, I've begun to see people bringing their headsets with them to go to the gym, and then they'll just go off in some corner and hope nobody's staring at them and just kind of, go to town, break a sweat using your VR headset. I will say that if you are using one, be sure it's got a silicone cover to wipe sweat and grime and whatever else away. In addition to getting a reinforced strap, because unfortunately on the Quest 2 and some of the other headsets, the straps aren't designed for shifting the weight of the headset around in a high intensity workout. It's not like a Peloton workout where you can jump up and down and do lots of things. But if you do that, just heads up, get a reinforced strap or a better headset system, attachment system for it. But yeah, VR fitness is a thing. So sorry, I had to mention that too.
It's kind of pedestrian, but I have an old Oculus Go, and watching like Netflix movies while you're on the treadmill, if you don't happen to have a television mounted in front of you, is kind of makes the time go a little faster.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's anything that works. And I still use my Go every night. I know it sounds silly, just exactly that. I watch Netflix in bed and I've got this 110-inch screen in front of me with headphones on, and yeah, so I catch up on a lot of Netflix in bed. All right, so what I wanted to cover here is the news that just came out this last week, actually yesterday, in fact, when this article was written. So Meta, I don't want to focus too much on Facebook, but I do think it's insightful to look at a company that has been doing a lot of things in the virtual reality space, how they're managing it, what are they doing, as an insight into what other companies could be doing or will be doing or should be doing, or missed opportunities. So it's always great to see what the big fish in the pond is doing. Love them or hate them, they're the 800-pound gorilla at the moment. Until someone else knocks them out of the limelight, I think it's prudent to see what they're up to. They have been doing a lot of rebranding of things. Again, like I mentioned, I follow a lot of groups on Twitter. They've rebranded their Twitter. It's no longer Oculus. Now it's just Meta. So Meta this, Meta that. So you're just going to hear that word being used all over the place if you haven't heard it already. With regards to financial news, it sounds like they're still burning a lot of cash to make virtual reality possible for a lot of people. It doesn't sound like they're making a whole lot of money on selling these headsets. If they do, it's at a margin. It's almost like they want to focus more on making money from the content than the device itself. I mean, for many of us who played console games growing up, it's almost like, here, have a Nintendo for free. We'll make the money back on the games and the cartridges that you buy. And so I wouldn't call the Quest of all the headsets, I wouldn't call it a loss leader. It is a sophisticated piece of technology, but at the same time, their strategy is to still push forward and getting it in the hands of the most number of people, and then controlling content in and out of their system. I'm still optimistic to an open metaverse, whatever that's going to look like, whether it's closed gardens, walled gardens, all kinds of different gardens. I have no idea what it's going to look like, but a lot of companies are trying to position themselves as being, the way to get into the metaverse, but it's still a very wild and woolly place at this point. Yeah, I've heard in chat, I've heard good things about the Bobo headset, head strap with batteries too, as a solid solution. I don't have one myself, but that is on my short list of things to get. All right, $1 billion spent on the Quest Store. 8 titles surpassed $20 million in revenue. $1 billion, that's not chump change. That is a lot of money being spent on the Quest Store. And some of the articles I've read, that the Quest and Quest 2 have been selling like hotcakes. They've far eclipsed any other headsets going out there. That includes other wireless ones. It also includes a lot of hardwired ones. The Oculus Store has been selling titles left and right, and it has been, quite successful for them, at least as far as the store and the software is concerned. Hardware is a different matter. Mark Zuckerberg on the latest call did indicate there are going to be other headsets coming out sometime around the corner, and as we know more information, we'll be able to take advantage of looking at that. John Carmack did indicate that Quest 2 has a lot of legs on it, so don't think if you just bought one that, oh my gosh, I just bought something that's going to be obsolete. What do I do now? It's like, no. Quest 2 is going to be out. It's going to be available and in use for quite some time. When it's going to be replaced by something else, who knows if they're going to maintain the same price point of $300, or whether they're going to offer something that's above it, like an enterprise class headset, or what exactly they're going to do, and exactly what is their AR strategy going to be with regards to what Meta has in store. But yeah, so if you guys have a chance to read this article a little bit more, and they've got links to everything on it, far more details. I think it'd be great to just kind of take a deep dive onto some of this. So it's no longer a developer hobby. This is, real people making real money in real jobs, and the virtual augmented reality as a viable career path, not just as a researcher, but as someone who can build content and turn that around. So yeah, good times. So any questions or comments on $1 billion on the Quest store?
Just kind of a quick comment. I think $1 billion for that company kind of is chump change, isn't it?
Yeah, billion here, billion there.
'Cause
but this
I
is
think I
as up
read
to
that.
real money.
I think I read that just today their market cap dropped 200 billion,
Yeah, just like that. And
which is just a daily thing, but still it kind of puts it in the
Million.
perspective.
Yeah.
Million, billion, 100 billion, 200 billion.
yeah, it still seems like funny money to me when you can lose market value so much so quickly. So it's like, okay, is that real money? I mean, or is that just the perception?
Depends on if
value.
you sold or you bought, I guess.
Yeah, no kidding. So, all right. So with regards to looking at a couple other news items here, again, focusing, and I don't want this to be completely a, Oculus focused discussion. I mean, there's still a lot of good things going on with Steam and with the HTC Vives and things that they're doing, although I will mention them a little bit later. So this other one I wanted to mention is this new thing that folks are getting concerned about. And I do think it is something to be concerned about. And that is all of the privacy information, the privacy settings of what Meta collects and what they don't collect, and what they say they don't collect, but they could collect. This originally started in a Stanford research paper that was talking about even after you anonymize data.
I think you're minutes away, or
No, it takes some time.
are you good? Okay.
I can submit, but I just want to.
Okay.
There's a lot of that setting aside, right?
Okay.
So with regards to data privacy, the Stanford study indicated that even when data is anonymized coming off of a headset, the fact that they can still detect movement, your physical movements, people have a signature, a physical signature, or a tick,
Sorry,
or
I
a
didn't hear
nervous
well. You
habit.
said you had to still commit.
Yeah, like everything else, all the first ones.
Okay.
All that comes with it.
So,
Okay.
Andy, could you mute for a
Can I
sec?
approve it when I get home?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, if you could mute for a sec, if you don't mind. So, yeah, so the ability to collect information that's been anonymized but still can be traced to a particular individual is still of a concern. And what this article goes into on the road to VR is it does talk about the types of information that they want to collect, and also some of the ways that they're getting around it. Like, you might be able to clear a browser setting, but if you start a new tab or do something else, some of that information is collected within the headset itself. So, it's going to be a cat and mouse game. Folks are going to be, pulling these things apart, finding loopholes in it, and figuring out, okay, here's something how you can mitigate against a loophole, or here's something that you need to be aware of when you choose to accept the end user license agreement, or even an update to the software. I remember having to update one of the apps I was using when I was on a business trip here several months ago on Lyft. My credit card had expired, but before I could put in a new credit card, Lyft wanted me to read 25 pages on my phone to accept the end user license agreement to install the app. Well, who's going to really read that stuff top to bottom? We should. A lawyer will say you better read that stuff, but how many of us really read the end user license agreements top to bottom? But when it comes to data privacy, we've got to take that stuff seriously and figure out how do we participate and have the right to be forgotten. I mean, the whole GDPR thing and data privacy in Europe has come here to the States, but some companies are like, well, we still want to be able to collect some data. So there's always going to be this this, measure, countermeasure stuff to data collection and data privacy. But I do think it is something that discussions need to be had, and people do need to take it seriously and not just, click through the end user license agreement just so they can start playing things, not realizing what they just agreed to.
I think this is this is something that is a pet peeve of mine in terms of these agreements. I think with software, that providing a service and requiring you to read a legal agreement is probably viable. But my pet peeve is when you buy a headset or a television and you've had it for a year and they issue an update, and then in order to continue to use the television, you have to agree to this legal agreement, but you really can't return the television. And I would love if there was a legal challenge to the idea that you could change the legal agreement and prevent people from using the features that they bought with the hardware because you updated your legal agreement. And to me, that's a violation of contract law, because you shake your hands when you make the purchase and you exchange money for a product or service, but to sit there and then later on say, oh, well, I'm changing the deal on you. It's like the whole Darth Vader moment. Anyway, so that's one issue, but you, Todd, turned me on to the Voices of VR. You mentioned that. And so I've listened to a huge number of those podcasts. One of them was the EFF, and they were basically talking about the volume of licensing agreement changes. And if every single piece of software that you were using or having to read cover to cover on the license, they did a total, and you basically would spend 24 hours a day reading your licensing agreements just to be able to use the software on your computer. So just an amusing anecdote. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's another reason why a lot of people are just really pushing hard on open sourcing a lot of this stuff, where they can streamline a lot of those to Creative Commons licenses where it's not bogged down in legalese. And some companies are reacting negatively to a lot of that pushback. For instance, I had a Blu-ray DVD player that could also connect to Netflix, YouTube, and all that kind of stuff. Well, guess what? I bought this thing maybe 5 years ago, and the software says, hey, would you like to update, to the latest version? And you say, yes, 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 and you get through all that. Well, there was this one update that said, this hardware is no longer supported. You cannot have any further updates. And then later it said, this device will stop functioning using this software. So it's an intentional design planned obsolescence as a way of forcing people to buy new things. I think that's unfortunate. But to that end, like you mentioned about the Go, Oculus did do the right thing, or Meta, and they did open source the software used to power the Oculus Go. And so now there's a movement of people who said, hey, what you did for the Go, do it for Quest 1, because you can't buy Quest 1 anymore brand new from the manufacturer. So I think that could be something in the future to keep an eye on. But yeah, we're not lawyers by training or by education, and we hope that, of the lawyers that we do hire for work, that we trust them to know what they're doing, because we're not going to read this stuff and we don't understand a lot of these things. So it comes down to, a level of trust, and still, what is the true motivation behind these things? What is the motive on doing this? Do people just want to do companies want to so protect themselves from anything, or do they want to make it so complicated that no one's going to have the money to go fight them in court? So yeah, it's a
The
cat and mouse
article
game.
said, oh, I'm sorry.
I was
You
going to
are-
ask if I might make a quick comment. I don't know if any of you have ever bothered to read one of your EULAs. I actually do read them, and I am pretty good at the legalese. And if you're not scared, you should be. When you use voice activation through Google or through Microsoft or through Siri, anything that you say becomes their property. It's not just that they're recording it and using it to feed you whatever, it becomes their property. So in the future, when someone does get a metaverse and they throw in a bunch of NPCs and they have to have characters that look like someone, and they have to have characters that sound like someone, they can use your voice sample without your knowledge, consent, without you getting any recognition or any payment for it, because they own it. Your voice sample. Scary, but those are what the EULAs are saying. They're not there to protect the company. They're there to protect the company's ability to steal from you.
And to be able to use their content, to be able to use your content that you've given to them
To earn
to
money.
do anything they want to do with it.
Yes.
And also a big thing, the way Google has made a large majority of their money is selling analytics about the marketplace. And so some of the technology that I've read about in these smart TVs, and I've heard that they're selling the smart TVs at cost, because built into the smart TVs, even if you're playing a movie off of a VCR through the television, it's analyzing the images and identifying the movie you're watching. And then in those legal agreements, they're saying basically we can take your watching patterns and upload it to this particular website, right? This particular domain. And so that's built into the television for them to be able to make money. And they've also got cameras and microphones, as this gentleman is saying. And then, I mean, the spying technology is just insane. I read just a day or two ago about, this is purely academic at this point, but they're working on a fingerprint signature for video cards, so that when you're playing 3D web content and it's leveraging your graphics card, that they can identify who you are, not by a cookie value following you around with the Google Analytics domain, but they can just identify you based on your graphics card, because the flow rate of data through all of the different channels on a video card is uniquely identifiable, regardless of whether it's the same model from the same manufacturer. And that's what they're working on right now as a research topic. So these guys really, really want to spy on us. And there's a lot of money flowing into that.
At a boomer to Gen X age range, we are not happy with this because we value our privacy. But unfortunately, the millennials and laters, they really don't care. They're more than happy to not value their privacy and to give up that privacy, because you're right, it is built into the cost. They're giving away cell phones practically. Why? Because you pay monthly for minutes. So yeah, it is built into the cost, and it's not something we're going to get away from, but it is something that we really need to get some protection as to who uses that information for what. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and like it was mentioned, by all means, if you guys can, and gals, if you can listen to the Kent Voices of VR, the Kent By podcast, he had a really great episode, well, average more than one episodes, regarding data privacy and looking at this topic much more in depth. So it is something to be aware of and get serious about it and not take it lightly. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move along here on a couple other news items. So appreciate that that discussion as well. So Firefox Reality is was or is a newly adapted web browser to allow using a web browser to look at content in virtual reality. It's a pretty slick technology where you don't have to install any software. You just have a web browser inside of your headset, and you can, click around and jump in, and everything is delivered, all of the content delivered through the web browser. It does use a variety of different technologies. Unfortunately, Mozilla put it on pause or on hold. They have decided to allow other developers to use it, and it's been picked up. Just today, update on Firefox Reality was published today. So, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Igalia. So that's the name of the company that's going to continue to build and extend what they're now calling the Wolvik browser. And so that is something to keep eye and keep tabs on. So besides just having an Oculus browser or whatever other kind of browser inside of a virtual reality headset, if it's open sourced and you can look at the code and you can do lots of things with it, you can extend it, you can make it better, you can make it connect to different types of things. I think that's awesome. So I'm great to see that someone has picked that up and is running with that. All right. Another thing coming out of Meta is this thing called Horizon. And Horizon is a multi-user workspace where you can have avatars doing lots of different things. It's almost like being able to have a virtual conference room where you can do things, you can share things, collaborate on whiteboards, you can watch videos, you can share documents, you can do a lot of these different things. I haven't played with Horizon myself. I'm waiting for things to settle down a little bit before I jump in. You do need to have a Facebook login, unfortunately, in order to participate on this. But one of the things that did come out of the investor call that Mark Zuckerberg indicated is that they plan on bringing Horizon to smartphones. And as many of you, are probably aware, the number of smartphones being sold every year far exceeds the number of desktop and laptop systems combined, hands down. In fact, there's a lot of countries that are going straight to a smartphone market. They're not even bothering going with this logical progression of different compute platforms. They're going straight to smartphones, 5G networks, and different types of technologies to support that. So the fact that they're making Horizon available on smartphones sometime, that's an interesting twist on things, because anything that can help people jump in to whatever the metaverse is going to look like or what it's going to be on the most number of devices, not just virtual reality devices, obviously, augmented reality devices, but also smartphones, that's a huge market that they want to get in front of and try to take advantage of. For them, of course, but also being able to, figure out how do we get people more engaged with better content, more engaging content, but they're still going to figure out how they make money from it. Are you going to see ads on things? One of the new techniques, I don't know if you want to call it a twist on an old thing, but if any of you have seen the Truman Show, the movie, where brands are prominently displayed in the middle of the movie to the camera, to you, the audience watching it. In video games and in other types of digital experiences, you're starting to see that more, where you're seeing branded content intentionally shoehorned into something where people can play with it, they can explore with it. So it's not just an ad being shoved in your face, but it is a brand of a product, of a thing or a service that people will engage with and learn more about it. So it's an interesting twist on a marketing strategy. And so far it sounds like it's a hit, because a lot of people are just, they're sick of ads, but companies still need to get their products out in front of people. And how do they do it without being so in your face and annoying? So more to come on that sometime in the future. All right. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
I had read about this Horizon and the idea that one of the things that was presented, because I have a friend at Facebook we were chatting, and the idea is that if you're having a meeting, like a Teams meeting, and half the people in VR, some of the people are on phones. And so the idea of extending Horizons to smartphones and whatnot is the idea that you'll have a mix of people from using different types of devices in that meeting. And that's the idea of extending it, is extending the metaverse to other devices, because some people will be in their cars and they won't be wearing headsets. And you want them still to be able to have the meeting. So they'll be trying to figure out a way. And I guess this is a challenge for someone who's developing a virtual reality application, is that they have to deal with the fact that they'll have a mix of devices, not just headsets with 3D, but a phone, which might just be sitting on somebody's dash. So how do you have a virtual reality metaverse app that is supporting multiple devices simultaneously?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also being able to interact with them, because there's a difference between, doing something with controllers in your hands or being able to do some other type of interaction. Smartphones, you can, lift them up, you can shake them, you can twist them, do limited types of things. You only have so much surface on a smartphone to touch, and to move things around, which is a nice dovetail into talking about something else.
Well, you also have the ability to Bluetooth a remote control to the phone as well. I think the problem that Horizon is going to have is that they won't use it. Larger corporations are not going to use it. They don't have enough trust for Facebook and the data that they're collecting. They don't want their data snooped on. That's why they're sticking with Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, that's a good point. The fact that it requires a Facebook login, that's a deal killer right out of the gate for many corporations. They're like, we are not going to allow our employees to force them to use Facebook in a enterprise setting. In fact, there are many companies that have completely pushed back on any type of social networking platform, even being able to be accessed on their system, like being able to hit it from a web browser or anything else. They're completely blocked any and all traffic through different types of firewalls and different technologies to even prevent that from happening. But
Yeah,
people still do it on their phones.
Yeah, I think it's out there, but in terms of a timeline, but I believe as part of the Horizon Vision roadmap is to allow corporations to use their own authentication. Similarly, the way Teams or some of the other apps, when you log into an environment, it will use your server's open brain fart. It's going to use
single sign-on.
It's going to use your enterprise's single sign-on and basically forward to your enterprise's choice of single sign-on for Horizon and these other apps. They're not. It's already in their roadmap to allow that. So they're not planning on limiting you only to Facebook, because they know of the concern that you're raising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a different discussion. But yeah, the only trouble with single sign-on is when the single sign-on service goes down, then a lot of people are on the sidelines until something like that can come back up. Yeah, there's been a couple high-profile outages with regards to that. But yeah, I think the more options that these companies have and not feel like they're being forced into using these things if they want to participate, I think is good. I still think a lot of corporations are going to be nervous. They're going to be like, well, we're going to kick back for a while and we're going to let somebody else take the hits on this before we jump in. So I think a lot of it is like a wait and see, but it is a compelling case to be able to offer something that is so immersive and adds much higher level of productivity and engagement in a team versus just looking at a video camera and a couple computer screens and then trying to make that as productive as being truly in person with access to all of those things. So I think it's an exciting time. At the same time, it does behoove us to be a little bit cautious on it. But yeah, I've got a good friend of mine who is not into virtual reality, but he's heard a lot about it. But he's really interested in this virtual desktop workspace. So he wants me to put together a demo of you want somebody to show them Horizon, big screen, VR desktop, the Oculus desktop, and a couple other ways, what does it look like to be able to work using virtual reality as an augment to doing other types of tools, like, what can I put a VR headset on and do that's hyper productive, and then take it off and go do other things. So it's kind of a combination of being able to use it when you need to use it, not trying to stay in a VR headset for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. So, okay, on to hand tracking. I don't have a link for this, but I did see that there has been updates on the Oculus SDK with regards to hand tracking. And the cool thing about hand tracking is that you don't have to worry about charging up your controllers. You always have your hands available. So being able to do much far more granular touch, not just on a surface, but also detecting where your hands are in three-dimensional space, so you can actually grab objects and manipulate them with a decent level of fidelity, meaning when you see your hand, it really is mirroring the movement of your hand in the headset. They still have issues with, if your hand moves in front of your hand, does it know which one is the front and which one is back? So occlusion of objects is still a challenge, but it's gotten better. And some of the demos I saw, just watching a couple real quick clips of them, it's encouraging. And that is where a lot of the headset manufacturers are going. Controllers are great, and controllers can provide a certain level of precision and interaction that your hands can't. And yet at the same time, people are very naturally inclined to use their hands to do things. It is the original user interface, is using your hands to interact with things. So that's going to be neat to see. Both Unity and Unreal have announced support for a lot more hand tracking. And then the way the Oculus SDK release cycle works, it's released on Oculus first, and then via updates, then the game engines will then start to incorporate that into their game engine. So you don't have to go out and download anything right away unless you want to fiddle with the SDK. It's going to eventually trickle its way into the game engines. So that's going to be fun to play with. I think it's going to be a kick to be able to do things that I normally haven't been able to do on that. All right, so we're coming up on just a couple more items, and then I'll jump into a demo, and then we can chat about other things. So there's this software offered on Steam right now. And you gotta love the name, Virtual Reality 2. So Virtual Reality 2 was announced, and it's going to be available on February 17th is their planned release date. So it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek type of thing where you're wearing your virtual reality headset and then you're interacting with other things in a separate virtual reality headset. So it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek way of looking at things. But some of the interaction and the game dynamics are really pretty slick and are very well done. So this is on my list that I like to go play with after I've had a chance to download and play with some other virtual reality games. I need to buy a few more VR fitness ones that I've got my eye on. I still haven't bought Population 1 and a couple others, but yeah, this is going to be on my list of things to go play with, just because it just looks so fun. All right. So yeah, thanks, Wilson, for the do-it-yourself hand gloves. I have seen some other news on hand gloves, but they're still fairly expensive, and I am interested in the do-it-yourself ones, especially if they can, interact very well. And that's always been the challenge, is how do you get real genuine tactile feedback without spending thousands of dollars on some of these gloves. So Thanks for sharing that. I'll take a peek when I can after we're done. So one of the gentlemen I follow on Twitter, he goes by the name Scared Ghost, and these handles will be in the email that goes out afterwards. He stumbled across a headset that looks like it's going to be done completely open source hardware. I've seen some open source hardware ones in the past, and they just didn't get much traction, or they didn't get enough funding either with Indiegogo, Kickstarter, or whoever, and you don't hear much about them anymore. But I did come across a new one that does look like it might have some legs to it. And as soon as I get that link, I'll put that in the notes that go out as well. I've mentioned this website before in other COVAR meetings. The site called www.vr-compare.com. This website does a pretty good job of monitoring the marketplace, whether these are US manufacturers, Chinese manufacturers, European manufacturers, wherever these things are coming across different companies' types of hardware that they want to introduce. Are these virtual reality headsets? Are these augmented reality headsets? Are these mixed mode reality headsets? Are these headsets? Are these glasses looking types of things? So there are a lot of things on this site. The site was pretty sparse, I think maybe 3 years ago, but now they are just chock full with all kinds of great headsets. Some of these headsets I've never even heard of. Some of these are coming out, out of China, and some of the supply chain stuff has been remedied, or they've got a lot more things coming out from there. Also with regards to a lot more European countries introducing headsets as well. So there's far too many to go take a look at. But what I would like to point out is that you can do this by, okay, show me ones that are only connected to a PC, or show me some AR glasses, show me all the AR glasses that are out there or that are about to be out there. And then you'll be able to see price comparisons, release dates, and some of the characteristics of the device itself, field of view, what kind of resolution, what kind of optics do they use, battery life, is it self-contained, does it need to interface with a smartphone, what's that look like? Then they also have it, even by going out and looking at the different individual headsets, some specs on them. So being able to, compare and contrast things side by side, I think is great. And I think it's neat to be able to look at all these different manufacturers. I mean, some of these I've never even heard of. And some of these are prototypes, to be honest. Some of them do get released to the commercial marketplace, and some of these do take off. I still have a Pico Neo 2 that I bought here. Was it early last year or late year before that? I've only played with this a little bit. It works. I can deploy Unreal Engine APK files to it. It's got a decent headset on it, so it's comfortable to wear. But it doesn't have like an actual store that's got lots of titles like an Oculus store does. But to just be able to prototype things and not have to fiddle with my Quest, I still, like playing with it. And it's not bad. It's not a bad headset. And this other feature is kind of cool, is you can select different headsets and then you can compare them using this tool. So again, VR-compare is a really neat website to go keep tabs on what kind of headsets are out and what kind of headsets are soon to be coming out. So any questions on hardware, any comments?
Yeah, those Lenovo headsets are gone. Lenovo stopped making headsets.
Yeah, and when you look at it, here it is, upcoming headsets, none.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
you can,
unfortunately, Lenovo is a very good company. I actually own a Lenovo headset and it is fantastic. It has to run through mixed reality, but they're not coming up with anything new.
mhm. Yeah, and there's still a good market as far as looking at different types of headsets that people want to be able to buy that are used and not in too bad of shape on both Amazon and eBay. So I would suggest if you're interested in trying to save a little bit of money and you want to look at some of these older ones, by all means. But if you're pressed for money and budgets are tight, I'd recommend going with, one of the, headsets that is currently popular. And I'll demo my own Quest 2 here in a moment on something I wanted to show in a second. So yeah, some of these companies, come out with great ideas, and for whatever reason, it's just not adopted, or it was just too expensive, or it just didn't meet their budgets. A lot of hardware gets cut because it's just not making any money, and the companies are out to make money. And so if it's not going to meet their budgeted projections, sometimes they'll pull something, even if it's still being sold. So yeah, that's just the nature of the consumer electronics beast.
Yeah, I'm so ready to upgrade my Quest 2 with better lenses, and I accidentally scratched one of my lenses with my glasses a couple of years last year or so, and so now I have the prescription lenses, and that scratches there. Those Fresnel lenses, man. Once they scratch, it's gone.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah, and all of my headsets, I have the glasses insert, but it still presses pretty hard on my frames. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna either go without glasses or do what you did and get the prescription ones.
Are you guys referring to VR Wave, those prescription? Okay.
Yeah.
And those scratch? Because I was thinking about getting them.
No. I scratched my original lenses because I was trying to wear glasses. My prescription's not that bad, but I was trying to wear my glasses in it and scratched it. But once it happens, you're done with that. So,
Okay.
but I'm definitely ready to upgrade, because the whole FOV, the whole field of view, also it's like you're looking through bottle glasses. I mean, it's improving, the technology's improving, and I love it. I use it all the time. I do quite a bit of stuff with it, but I'm ready to upgrade. So hopefully Zucker will release his grand news. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, more and more headsets are coming. It's just amazing to me how quickly some Chinese companies were able to come up with what they call Quest killers. Things that it's like, these controllers look very familiar. Where have I seen these controllers before? Or this type of lens looks very familiar. Where have I seen this before? And so, it's a constant challenge for companies to create something truly unique and try to make as much money as they can as quickly as they can, because they know things are going to get copied. And even if intellectual property is tied up in the courts, companies can be making money hand over fist while stuff is being tied up in the courts, and then they hope that they make enough money to fund these legal battles, and hopefully they'll get their hands slapped, or they have to pay a fine, or they'll have to get a licensing deal. But yeah, a lot of these companies are going to be copycatting each other left and right, even with patents and threat of lawyers and lawsuits. So yeah, go figure. So we'll look at one more piece of technology, and then I'll try to demo something on my headset, and we'll see how well this works over Zoom. I have my concerns, but we'll see how it goes. All right. So one of the technologies that's been in beta for quite some time that just recently got released to the free world for production use is a set of tools coming out of NVIDIA called Omniverse. Omniverse is a suite of software tools that allow you to create and do lots of capabilities. This is obviously focused on NVIDIA, and they want you to be able to use NVIDIA graphics cards to be able to use these things. And sadly, or whatever it is, their software only works on high-end RTX cards. So that means if you have an AMD card in your desktop rig, you won't be able to use some of the software, unfortunately. That also goes for Macs as well, unless a Mac is using, I think they're using the AMDs for their hardware. But yeah, so I have I'm running a Windows 10 PC. I've got an RTX card, so I'm able to run some of the software. It does require you to be on the latest drivers for a lot of this to work. And so the demo that I want to show, and I did this at the Unreal meeting last month, is this piece of technology called Omniverse Audio to Face. Audio to Face is a technology where you can take a WAV file that you have created and you can run it through the software program, and it will animate a likeness of a human head. And using some other technologies, the same rigging can then be used to create a brand new digital puppet or an avatar, or in the Unreal space, they call it a metahuman, to be able to create a near human likeness on something using this type of technology. And the amazing part is the software does all of the heavy lifting. You don't have to fiddle with trying to rig up how do your cheeks move, your lips move, a little bit of your eyebrows, your furrows, sometimes your ears, and things like that. So this is what the interface looks like. I'm going to minimize some of these boxes here to kind of go over what this looks like. So this is the default character that loads this head. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to browse to my desktop where I have a WAV file that's already been created. And I had a friend of mine was interested in using some of this technology, so I just created a very simple WAV file for them. So I'm going to select this file in this folder. So the source directory is pointing at my desktop. It's got a WAV file, and depending on your volume, you might want to just heads up on your volume settings. I don't know if it's going to be too loud or not loud enough, but what I would just want you to see is how this thing works. And this runs about 30 seconds. So here we go. Good afternoon, Steve. Good afternoon, Jen. This is a test of the audio to face technology provided by NVIDIA Omniverse. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Thank you very much. So that took all of 30 seconds to actually record that, and then just let the software run it. And like I said, you can take this and you can add it to different other software packages to rig up facial animations on things. So when people start talking about realism on avatars, NVIDIA really wants to see people using software within the Omniverse umbrella to do lots of things like this. So yeah, just a couple of years ago, there's no way I could have done this. I just don't have the skills or software experience to actually create this from scratch or how to rig it up. But all of this is free. It's open. Well, NVIDIA supports it. You have to get a license from them, but you are able to play with this stuff for free. In fact, all of their software in the Omniverse library is available to play with. So any thoughts or comments on this max headroom looking thing?
Wow.
So this is a plugin for Unreal that hooks into the NVIDIA software. Do you know if there's plugins for other engines and things? Or?
So this is designed to be integrated with other engines. It's not Unreal Engine specific. You can export this as a .usd file, I believe it's universal scene descriptor file, USD. And then from there, you can then pull this in to other game engines. So it's not specific to
Oh,
Unreal.
okay, so basically it kind of like bakes the animation in a way, or
Yep, creates
Okay.
all of this, and then you can then rig it up with different looking people.
so
So
is it
that's-
designed, so it's designed to be sort of pre-baked as opposed to like in a real time? I don't know why you would, I guess.
Yes, it is designed to be pre-baked. I have seen some cool demos, not using this technology, but with motion capture technology, and then a separate piece of software that does just the face, where you have like, like a smartphone in front of your face and it's on a rig, like on a helmet, and they do that, and that's very similar to this type of technology to actually rig that up and
But
make it
this,
easy.
you don't need like any video, it's just the audio, which is kind of crazy, some kind of AI thing maybe, or how does that even work?
Yeah, so they used a lot of data science, a lot of artificial intelligence, and a lot of machine learning to analyze a lot of audio and then figure out
Yeah,
the actual phonemes, the phonetics behind how words are pronounced, whether it's something is spoken in the back of your throat, on the middle of your tongue, how your jaw moves, all that stuff was then rigged up with like, I think like over like 100 points on the face and the different muscles and how things move when things are spoken. So they did a lot of things in the background to come up with the final version of the software that you see now. So yeah, there was a lot of machine learning behind the scenes,
Yeah.
running on NVIDIA clusters, of course, to do all this. Did someone have something else they want to say on this?
Yeah, I just reiterating Steve's and your response is that if you wanted arbitrary conversation, you would need an NVIDIA card and the software embedded in your application. This would not be something that you could hand arbitrary text to and have it speak it and animate the face. You do need all the hardware in place in order to have the face move. It's,
Well,
as you said, statically baked.
yeah, basically it sounds like this is the tool that you would bake the animation, and then the animation could play back in whatever.
So it's good for
External.
like movies, but it wouldn't be good for like dynamic.
It could be good for like if you had a cutscene in a video game or something.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to
That's what it
nail that
sounds like.
down. Okay.
Yeah, because if you could do this real time, then that might be an interesting VR use case. But I suppose there's probably a way to do it. If the people, if everyone on both sides, everyone on every headset had the same setup or something, because this is, that was almost real time anyway, wasn't it? If you had the
Yeah, I mean,
No,
you could
all the right
imagine it.
stuff.
You could imagine if you had a Teams meeting, right? And they're talking about having the
Yeah.
eye tracking and watching your face, right? And
Right.
so if the people in a meeting, VR meeting, had that type of internal camera imagery,
Or even if they didn't, right? Like if you didn't have, you weren't even on a camera, if you were audio only, this, would
oh, you could
still work.
animate. Yeah, you could have, and this would be like a Horizon type of event where you're in the car and you don't have an avatar, but it's simulating an avatar, taking your
Yeah.
phone conversation and animating your avatar, even
I mean,
though
it would be kind of off because it's just sort of guessing and based on a huge aggregate amount of data. We were just
Yeah.
talking about, how, it's probably, how they're using some of this data that we were just talking about in terms of privacy, but it's when it's aggregated, it's not quite as annoying, I guess.
yeah.
I had a
Scott,
question.
go ahead.
For those of you with Oculus Quest, I just did I did a manual update. A lot of times I do that just to get it up there. But I had major problems with the Guardian ever since I updated it. And I was just wondering if anybody else, I mean, now by habit, I turn it off. Most people do, but
I had
Yeah.
quite a few problems with it. I ended up having to do a factory reset. And it actually fixed the issues, but
Mm.
Yeah, because of the types of things that I like to build, I need to be able to physically walk around, and the Guardian just became an annoyance. And so I just keep mine off all the time.
Yeah, I'm starting to do that now. They say you can remove your history, your Guardian history, and it sometimes that when you do a firmware update, sometimes that fixes it. But
yeah, and I don't, for whatever reason, in my case, I tried all of that stuff and nothing worked. Just had to
Hmm.
do a full reset, which I don't recommend unless you really have to.
yeah,
Yeah, lucky for me, I've never had to do a factory reset, but it will solve a lot of problems. But then it's almost like rebuilding your desktop PC from scratch to be like, oh man, I gotta install all
It's
that
not
stuff
too bad
all
because
over
it
again.
automatically like downloads everything, but it illustrates how many of your like high scores and things are just local, which just kind of surprised me. Lost a whole bunch of that kind of stuff,
yeah, I heard that too, that you lose your,
which is kind of weird. You would think in this day and age it would all be kind of cloud based. That's much.
Okay, so what I'm going to show now is OpenBrush using my Quest 2. The only problem with this demo is that I won't be able to hear what y'all are saying. It's only going to be after the demo is complete, then I can put my headphones back on and I can hear you. So the challenge of doing Zoom with sharing a screen so you can see what I'm doing on screen, then I'm going to have my headset on. So this is my primary second monitor that I'm looking at right now. So I'm going to be looking at this monitor, and I'm going to try to keep everything in the center as I possibly can, which includes the palette and guides and things like that. I'll do the best I can on it. And the purpose of this demo is to show that OpenBrush just released version 1.0. This is a free drawing application. If you've ever seen or played with Tilt Brush, that's what this program does. So Google decided to open source Tilt Brush because they didn't want to maintain it anymore. And so it got picked up by the people behind OpenBrush, and they've been able to extend it. And I'll show off a few of the features that make it different than Tilt Brush. But pretty much, if you've ever played Tilt Brush, OpenBrush will come natively to you. Will come easily to you. So this is probably about a 5 or 6 minute demo. So like I said, if you have any questions, either write them down or put them in the chat, and we'll take a look at them when I'm done here. So yeah, nothing like a live demo trying to record this on Zoom. Hopefully my machine doesn't just completely die on us. So we'll do this. Oh, the other thing is that I am going to be talking what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So it might be a semi stream of consciousness, but I just want to be able to explain a little bit about what I'm doing. So the goal when I'm done is going to be, I'm going to tag the dark side of the moon with some graffiti. So that's what I'm going to try to draw for all of you. So that's where we're going.
into the matrix. Man, you give cable management a new name.
Okay, like I said, I'm going to try to stay focused in the center of the screen so you guys can see everything. Everyone can see my tilt brush screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Didn't know that would work.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to start off with a new sketch. This is your main palette on your left hand, and you use your thumbstick to move through the palette left and right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the background on this to be space. So here we go. We're now in space. And I'm using both of my palm triggers to resize things a little bit. And this is new in OpenBrush, is this thing called fly. So when I toggle fly, I can then pull the trigger on my right controller, and now I'm flying. And I can go backwards a little bit. I can go forwards a great distance, and I can turn around and I can still see way over there. So what I'm going to do is try to reorient this. So I want the sun in the background, and I want to make the moon a little bit bigger. I'm going to put it about here. This other tool are called guides, and guides are something that allow you to create or paint on a specific shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a sphere guide. I'm going to put the sphere guide around the moon, and this is going to be my drawing surface. And then I'm going to hide the sphere at the end with my graffiti on it. So I'm going to take this guide, I'm going to move it, the guide palette, out of sight. So I have the sphere now, and I can grab the sphere. I'm going to put this over the moon. I'm going to make it just a little, grab the moon again. Turn it a little bit like that. So the lines really don't matter too much. It's mainly just trying to get something on the shape of it. So with that done, I'm now going, and these thumbsticks kind of stick a little bit on these Quest controllers. So these are all of your markers and things you can draw with. So I'm going to go with this one called marker, which gives it not quite a highlighter feel, but I'm going to go with a yellow just because yellow stands out a bit. So in my right hand controller, you'll see the circle at the very tip, and I can slide my thumbstick, and that's the size of the paint that's going to get laid down. So if I pull my trigger, that's going to lay it down. And if I push the A button on my left hand, that erases what I just did. So now I'm going to change this size to be fairly small, and I'm going to try to freehand this, and we'll see how well this works. So the nice thing with the guide is that when you put your controller close to it, you'll see how it attaches to it. So now anything that I paint or draw is going to be on this surface itself. It's going to be attached to the surface. So here we go, freehanding. Then I can change the color. So I'm going to go select red, because red is the color of the empire, of course. And then back to yellow. So if I had selected, was it this yellow or was it this yellow? I can't remember what yellow this actually was. What you can do is here on your tools, you'll see this eyedropper. I can select the eyedropper, and then I can select a color previously selected. So I'm going to pick that color. And now I'm back to my original color. So I don't have to look at the color wheel and say, what color was that again? And unfortunately, they don't offer you the RGB values or anything else to actually, fiddle with it. So you kind of have to, use the tools that you've been given. So I'll see you on the dark side of what? Of the moon. All right, and one thing I like about these palettes is you can just grab them and then you can just toss them, like hard toss, and they're out of sight and out of the way. So now with the I should have hit the guides first before I did that. So here we go. Grab it again. So the Oculus will toggle the guide off. Now let me toss it. All right, there we go. Okay, so it's there, but it's kind of at a bit of an angle. So how do I grab it and make it all together? So there's this tool here called selection, and this is new in OpenBrush. I can do a group selection. So I'm going to toggle that. And now you'll see this, what almost looks like Deep Space Nine, this selection. So I'm going to hold my trigger down and I'm going to touch all of the letters that I wrote. And now when I hit this chain button, those are all grouped together. So these are no longer individual paint marks, they're all grouped together. And now with the selection, I can push my B button on my right hand and I can select the selection right there on the short palette. I can now grab this entire thing with my palm button and I can move it off. And if I look at it from an angle, you can see there's a curve to it. So it did follow the surface of the sphere guide. So I'm going to put that a little bit down here like this. And I can move this up and kind of center it on the sun in the background. Let me move that up just a wee bit like that. Okay, so I've graffitied the dark side of the moon. And as many people say in today's day and age, I need to see a picture or it didn't happen. Okay, well, we'll take a picture of this thing so I can prove that it actually did happen, even though technically the Zoom is getting recorded anyway. So with the camera selected, you can go through different cameras. You can do an auto GIF, which kind of bounces it back and forth. You can do a 5-second GIF, however you pronounce that, want to pronounce it. You can also do a video. I've not tried that. I don't have any music selected, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to go back to the snapshot. So I'm going to center this up on the moon in the background with the sun in the background, kind of center the text a little bit. Slowly squeeze the trigger, click. And now that's written to my documents folder in another folder called OpenBrush. So I'm going to hop out of this. I'm going to quit app. Take my headset off. Put my headphones back on.
Is that the version that they implemented a social aspect of it, where two people can draw?
Yes, there is a multi-version user coming. I don't think it's been implemented yet. And then same thing with their library. They want to be able to share things and build a separate library where people can post things and then people can grab it and do things. So yes, having multiple people draw and something like that, that's a lot of fun. Okay, so again, let me look at the my documents. You'll see this one called OpenBrush, and I look for the thing called snapshots, and I'm looking for today's date. And there we are. So proof that it worked. So yeah, I graffitied the dark side of the moon. So with that, that's pretty much all I had for this evening. Did anybody have any questions or comments on any of the demos on the links or anything else so far tonight?
Yeah, I was thinking about the audio two-phase, and then I'm wondering if that will play nicely with the the meta human that the Unreal Engine has, because that would be really cool if they could find a way to meld those two technologies and make them work together.
They have. They have done that.
Awesome.
If you want, I can put a link on showing how a gentleman walks through how he did that, and it's pretty cool. I haven't had a chance to go through all of the tutorials on it, but it's just so neat. It's like, man, this technology is right here. It's underneath our noses. Why not just jump into the deep end and figure out how this stuff works? Because it is just so fun to play with.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be great to see.
Will do.
Also, when we were talking about hardware, I was remembering a YouTube video I had seen where they were talking about a haptic suit called the OWO. I'm not sure if you've talked about this previously. I could drop a link in chat for the actual product itself.
Yeah, if you can, please.
And then the video. I'm not going to go too in depth with it, but the reviewer was talking about how much how lifelike some of the sensations were on it. In this particular video, it's about 6 minutes in when he actually starts to use it. But he was talking about how in one particular instance, you know, like you feel like raindrops falling along your arms, or like in another instance, he was talking about how he had the sensation of being stabbed, which is not something that we want to go around having the feeling of. But then, you know, like it was like that initial like hitting your gut and then like the twisting of it. So it seems like they're making some really interesting strides in haptics. But I think going along with the therapeutics, it might actually be a good application if someone could find a way to apply it in that direction.
Yeah, anything that can make it far more realistic in a controlled, safe setting, because that's one of the things that I've been reading and learning more about with regards to dealing or people needing treatment for different types of trauma, is being able to recreate that environment as realistic as possible and then retraining your body's response to it. So if you know that you're in a doctor's office, you know you're not going to be hurt, you know that the sounds are just sounds, explosions are just simulations of sounds, people screaming, I'm thinking more like a PTSD type of things. But then if you could simulate like a blast going off nearby you, or other things happening, so the more realistic you can make something, the easier it is to help reframe that trauma, so people can work past some of those types of things. Yeah, just sitting across the desk talking to somebody about something that happened a long time ago, it's just not the same as when you can actually see the face or faces of what's going on, or being a part of something that your body was just so amped up, you know, triggered with adrenaline, fear, rage. I mean, all of those feelings, those are very difficult to try to reproduce. But the more realistic you can do things, especially with regards to haptics and sight and smell and stuff like that, I think is going to be fantastic from a therapeutic perspective. And I'd like to see the technology being used for good and not so much to be used for bad things. So great. Thanks for sharing that.
Do you know how much it costs?
Nah, it's still in pre-order phase. I think it was just one of those products that were demoed in CES or something along those lines.
Yeah, the site shows
So
it.
a pre-order is just kind of expressing interest, or?
Yeah, I think so in this case. I was looking for the price. I didn't see one.
Yeah, Thrill Seeker puts out some pretty good content. Watch a lot of his videos.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's very enthusiastic.
Yeah, if you're into following somebody, there's a gentleman by the name of Matt Workman. He's been focusing on doing Unreal Engine metahumans, and a lot of his videos deal with him showing stuff wearing a mocap suit, motion capture suit, and he has his own studio, his own green screen, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just incredible to see what kind of things he's been able to create now. True, he's got a budget of several tens of thousands of dollars and equipment and all that kind of stuff, but it's still pretty cool to be able to see what someone can do with that technology. And this is just one guy doing his own thing in his own studio.
What was his last name?
Workman.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can find the.
Yeah. Something, what was the first name?
Matt Workman.
That reminds me of this avatar, this girl, forgot her name. It's kind of funny, but she does this, she's Asian. She does this really lifelike avatar, like interviews with people and stuff. It's kind of funny. She wears a suit and everything.
Yeah, and you're going to see a lot more of that, especially with regards to Unreal Engine 5 and some of the newer versions of Unity coming out, where once people see this stuff, they're going to be like, I want that in a game, or I want to experience it, or I need that right now, or I wanted this yesterday. So once people see it, that's going to start increasing the demand exponentially once people see that it's possible and you didn't have to spend millions of dollars to do it. That's going to put it into the realm of the possibility of people, of smaller teams that don't have multi-million-dollar budgets. So better tools in the hands of more people, that's always a win-win in my book. So, okay, anything else? All right, well, I appreciate everyone's time tonight. I know you've got lots of choices of what to do, so I appreciate you spending time with all of us tonight. I hope you learned a couple new things. When I finish the recording, I'll get it uploaded to YouTube, and then I'll send out the notes along with it, in addition to links and other things that came up in chat, and also what things people have mentioned. So with that, go ahead.
I had one quick thing I wanted to ask, is if other people also kind of, Facebook and Oculus kind of, or Metaverse, whatever, they're not connected for legal reasons, obviously, but I'm having a hard time. I mean, I get these usernames from people and I can't pin them to who they are after a couple of days because they've got some whacked out names. Is there like a note in Oculus or some way to tag a person's name to put your own notes and stuff? Does that make sense?
You mean like an anchor of some kind?
Yeah, because I mean, I've got so many friends and by this point, I don't remember who they are. They've got some whack names and stuff. I don't remember who they were originally. It's hard to connect that to, actual people, even.
Yeah, it's almost like they need to come up with a URL shortener or a bit.ly or something like that, where you can track things either for your own purposes or to be able to share with other people. Yeah, that can be hard too. I mean, especially with regards to gamers, they come up with these really cool names, and it's like, wow, I remember your gamer tag, but I have no idea your name or your face. Or even sophisticated email addresses like this one. I think it was like at Yahoo. This guy's name, Pancakes in Narnia, and I'm like, Pancakes in Narnia? What a weird email address. And I cannot tell you for the life of me what the gentleman's real name was. So just one of those crazy mnemonic devices. But yeah, I think there's a need for that. And yeah, I think when it comes back to identity management and single sign-on and things like that, being able to see people's profile of some kind, how does it get matched to a real human, and how do we know this isn't some kind of AI bot causing problems? But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I don't have an easy solution to that, but if you come up with one, let me know, because that's something I need as well.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it's something I missed over all these years. I mean, I've been doing this for many years, and it's still, so after a while, you've got this long contact list and there are all these wacky names. It's like, I don't associate people to those names. I keep it simple. Mine's Wilson to be, so.
Yeah, and it's always the flip side too. It's like, you know, you see people's faces and you tend to remember their face, but you'll forget their names. But you never see the flip side. You never say, you know, I remember your name, but I forgot your face. You know, you just don't see that.
Yeah.
So great. Well, hey, I hope you all had a good time tonight, and again, try to stay warm, and looking forward to seeing you all again in March, and hopefully we'll get back to in-person events, and that'll be good times.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
bet.
Thanks again,
Todd.
Todd.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
see y'all. You bet.
Take
Yeah.
it easy.